Today I would like to reflect on and share with you just a snippet of my recent professional experience by focusing on one lesson. I had a Year 8 visual arts class, a very capable bunch able to take prompt questions really well. For one example, I brought in my own clay works, putting 2 to 3 pieces in the middle of each desk, going around the room asking students from each table to identify one out of the 5 techniques we had learnt about. Though there was one student who struggles with his motor skills, he often needs things adjusted or requires assistance. It was their first lesson constructing their masks, which was part of a unit where they were required to create a mask considering line, texture, symmetry, balance, and other principles and elements of design, which was to be inspired or based on tribal and/or African masks. This lesson took place in their usual scheduled class. It was my 4th lesson with them, taking place in week 7 of term 4, period 5 and 6, which I had worried might be a struggle since it was right after lunch and the last lesson of the day. In this lesson, students were to make a solid start to the construction of their masks. Lessons leading up to this were spent researching and planning designs. My aims for this lesson were to have students build their masks, have them at least 2/3 complete, demonstrate any 3 of the 5 techniques discussed, and demonstrate smooth joining, scoring, and slipping. Overall aims were to encourage problem solving and resilience when students discover flaws in their originally planned designs, as transferring from 2D to 3D isn't always easy. Students also experience the pleasure and enjoyment in making artworks, one of my favourite outcomes from the syllabus. This lesson is engaging as it's very hands-on. Students can experiment with the new ideas if one idea doesn't work, and even though we'd like to be up to a certain point by the end of the lesson, to a certain extent, students can work at their own pace. I also thought this would be a successful lesson due to my preparation. I had cut all the clay slabs up for students, ready to go prior to the lesson. I had divided up tools between all 5 tables, ensuring they had a good range of tools to use to assist them, and had their placemats laid out ready to go also. I enjoy adopting and using different aspects of learning theories. For example, behavioural learning theory is key in understanding how to motivate and help students. I used guided practice, providing students with reinforcement and behavioural demonstration as to what I wanted them to do. I used regular reviewing. Every lesson leading up to this included constant informal quizzing and reviewing of 5 techniques taught and the stages of clay. Positive reinforcement. I used small chocolates as rewards for correct answers, though this wasn't every lesson, as I don't want to rely on extrinsic motivation. I used this as a motivator in 2 lessons where it was the end of the day and students may need a little bit of competition, extra push and excitement. I also use a lot of verbal reinforcement and individualize it to each student. When it comes to cognitive learning strategies, one thing I included and received good feedback for doing so was thinking aloud and demonstrating to students how I might go about things. My supervising teacher often said that teenagers need reminding that it's a human being in front of them. As I mentioned before, I brought in my own works which got a great reaction from the class. I provided plenty of pictures when discussing elements of design, principles of design, and examples of taught techniques. I gave a lot of thought to the order in which I was going to deliver the information to students to ensure they were best prepared. Constructivism can be seen through discovery learning, when students were able to just have fun and experiment with the material, what it feels like, what happens if I do this, what happens when I use that. This helped students problem solve when it came to doing the real thing, and they were able to recall on this experience. They're learning their own answers, though I am there to assist and guide. I provided support by modelling through my demonstrations, and scaffolding was also provided in the previous lesson to ensure students hit the criteria with their designs. They knew what they were doing, where they were doing, and even what they were going to use in order to achieve that result. With this particular lesson, I feel I demonstrated the following standards. Number 1, know students and how they learn. Knowing my students allowed me to successfully differentiate when needed. In this particular lesson, students had photocopied versions of their templates, though one student needed an example I had found online. He was also one of the reasons, apart from saving time, as to why I cut out all the templates for students prior to the lesson. My supervising teacher said my planning for this lesson paid off and students were extremely productive, all but 2 completing their masks, and all masks met the requirements of their design and students demonstrated appropriate technique and execution. I also accounted for differentiation. My supervising teacher even commented that she had never seen so many students finish within one lesson. My supervising teacher had previously commented on what a lovely environment I had created for students to walk into. I feel confident I created a supportive and safe environment as all students were comfortable asking questions as I moved from table to table throughout the entire lesson. Students were also helping each other, which I feel is a testament to a supportive environment. I accomplished this by understanding teaching as a social interaction. I respected the students and didn't put them down. I enjoyed teaching the students as well as a subject and knowing them individually. My supervising teacher actually shared something that was said during a staff development day, which was, the boys want you to know something about them and the girls want to know something about you. It was funny as it really did sum up my whole 3 weeks quite well. As the lesson progressed, I played music for the class, taking any requests as long as the song was appropriate. It really created a great atmosphere as we were all being creative and productive, which was great to see for a period 5 and 6 lesson. I also hoped that it would demonstrate to students that I appreciate that they were staying on task and that I trusted them to continue on with the added volume. One thing I would like to do differently about this lesson is provide that student that needed the template I found online with more variety and option. Everyone else got to draw up their own designs and pick and choose, whereas I just kind of handed him one. Maybe in the future I should draw up quite a few options of my own designs instead of one online, so he can choose. Still, there is that element of choice to an extent. But it was a successful lesson nonetheless. Students were on task. They were not bored or disinterested in talking to friends instead. They were buzzing with excitement, encouragement, and it was just great to see. And all but two finished their masks. I was so pleased.